Kevin Kruse is on the line with us. He's a historian, professor of history at Princeton University, author most recently of One Nation Under God, which I'm holding in my hand here, How Corporate America Invented Christian America. The website, princeton.edu/history. Dr. Kruse, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for joining us. How Corporate America Invented Christian America. How?
Well, that's the book. The idea of the book is that not that corporate America invented the very idea of Christian America, that had been around from the start, but that it helped implement the markers that Americans come to think of today when they assume that the country is a Christian nation. And as a recent poll showed, more than half of all Americans think the country already is a Christian nation.
57% of Republicans are in favor of declaring it.
That's right. And so either we should be or we already are. That's the debate on the right, at least. So the things that they point to, one nation under God and the Pledge of Allegiance, our God we trust, the national motto, the national day of prayer, which is tomorrow, the national prayer breakfast, things like that. Many people assume that these are with us from the founders, but they're actually all inventions of the 50s. And as I found in the book, they come about largely from a campaign that's engineered by corporate America.
So if I were to have asked my grandfather, who has passed away, but who was a disabled vet from World War I, is America a Christian nation? He would have no idea what I'm talking about, by and large, right? Because he was, that was back in the 20s and 30s and 40s,
right?
And
so he might take it as, well, sure, we're a nation of Christians, perhaps. But that's rather different than formally being a Christian nation.
Right.
So the Pledge of Allegiance that would have been said in his day would have been one that didn't have under God in it.
Right.
If you'd asked him what the national motto was, we didn't have an official national motto, but he would have said "E pluribus unum."
Right.
He wouldn't have said
"Out of the many one."
Right.
So basically, what you're suggesting, or what you've documented in your book, is that a group of business people got together and said, and my language, not yours, we need to hire some shills to get out there and promote this idea that America is a Christian country, so that we can bring the suckers in and exploit them politically. Essentially, am I sounding too cynical here?
Maybe a little too cynical, but you're not far off the mark. Because they do quite consciously say that the reason they're getting ministers to make this case, and the reason they're using religious language in the first place, is that the arguments they want to make, kind of bare bones arguments about how great capitalism is and how the New Deal is evil, that these aren't getting through. So they say, well, we need to gussy it up in religious language because that is what will sell. We need ministers to make this case for us because they're the most trusted people in America. So it is cynical in that end, yes.
Yeah, and it used to be the ministers who were the ones who more often than not were calling out the abuses of big business. The involvement of churches in the civil rights movement. It goes all the way back to abolition. The involvement of churches in the women's rights movements goes back to the founding of this republic. Wow. So where you document in the book, for example, bringing in Billy Graham and all these guys. Where, in a more contemporary sense, where does Mike Huckabee fit into all this?
Well, Huckabee, in a lot of ways, is an heir to this movement. He's arguing, again, he has said that God wrote the Constitution. That's a line that comes up a couple times in these writers in the 30s and 40s.
Right.
He believes that. He's more of a social conservative, but the same arguments that are being done here to wed piety and patriotism are ones that I think animate his politics. So I think he's very much in the mix.
Most of these changes you point out in the book, and in fact you open the book with the inauguration of Dwight Eisenhower, most of these changes took place in the 50s, many of them during the Eisenhower administration. Was Eisenhower in on this, or was he just, he was a fairly religious guy, in his farewell address, he ends with a prayer, and it's actually a very beautiful one. Did he think that the influence of religion would be benign?
He did, and so he's aligned with this Christian libertarian group. In fact, he probably would have been elected without them, but they're instrumental, I think, in ensuring a landslide victory. He works at this group, Freedom's Foundation, which is a part of this Christian libertarian trend.
This is 52 or his re-election in 56?
30 million pieces of their logo across the country right before the election.
Wow. Now, was that for his initial election of 52 or for his reelection of 56?
1952.
52.
In 1956, the message is the same. There are billboards in California that sum it up beautifully. A faith in God and country. That's Eisenhower. How about you?
Huh.
So they've wedded piety and patriotism perfectly there. But Eisenhower thought that this was a good thing. He gets mocked for as William Lee Miller of Yale University says, for being a very fervent believer in a very vague religion.
Right.
But that was the point. He knew that if he was trying to ram down a Baptist perspective or a Catholic perspective or anything like that, then he would alienate other sects. But if you can speak vaguely about one nation under God or in God we trust, it welcomes in Protestants, Catholics, and Jews alike.
Right.
And so he did away with the partisan origins of this. He actually went to betraying his Christian libertarian backers and making peace with the New Deal to their outrage. And he uses this religious language that they had always seen as a means to an end of rolling back the New Deal. He makes it an end unto itself. And so he quickly infuses the nation with this religious language.
Fascinating stuff. And he essentially ran on the New Deal in 56. I mean, you read the Republican Party platform. We added these many union members. We increased the Social Security by this amount.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. Kevin Kruse, brilliant book. It is One Nation Under God, How Corporate America Invented Christian America. Kevin, thank you for dropping by.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Great talking.